Oh, yeah, another week in the books. Got us some candidate action this week. It's one of, hopefully, many we're going to get here in the next few weeks. Monica Irvine with an E at the end, so it spells Irvine, but you say Irvine. Anyway, Monica Irvine came by and we talked, and it was a good talk, and I enjoyed having her, and I appreciate her for coming out. They had a candidate forum this week as well, if you got a chance to catch that. If not, go back and look at it and learn more about it there. We're almostagreement at gmail.com. Find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Go to the website, almostagreement.com. While you're there, check out hollarboo.com. Hollarboo 24 is upon us. We are rocking out with Soapbox Derby, Fender Street Fair, and a rock concert, all in the Halloween theme. It's going to be a good old time, and it's going to be big, and it's going to be crazy, and you should be a part of it. So check that out as well. Go to your favorite podcast provider. Give us a follow, a like, a friend, a share, or whatever you can do to help spread the word. Text us to your friends, all those fun, good things, and we will do a show, and we'll talk about this and other things. Hey, buddy.
Hey.
What's new with you?
Not much.
Oh, yeah. Now everything's back right in the world.
That's
we know.
Right.
I mean, one new thing. Well, I mean, not new thing. It's happened like 40-something times already, but that happened this week. It's like Tuesday or Wednesday this week. Something that only happens once a year happened this week since last time we talked.
Is this something you get pulled up? What?
No, it's something specifically pertinent to you and no one else in this building right now.
Oh. That
did happen last week, which is exciting.
Okay, yeah.
But
so exciting.
They get weird as you get older. Whatever. Yeah. So I think I would like to start a little bit in what could have been a great post show if we would just kept the tape rolling when we argued more about Trump and Clinton and whatever post show last week. I think in that I was a little drunk and I think I got a little excited. And first of all, I apologize for getting a little excited. But I think in that I realize that I've done a poor job of articulating the totality of my point, and not to say that this version of me trying to articulate my points can be much better. I think Trump is a piece of shit. I think it is sad and downright pathetic that we as Americans have put ourselves in a position that is a viable candidate for the President of the United States. I think it is sad. I think it is awful. I think he's a shitbag. I will not vote for him, just like I haven't voted for him the prior 2 times he's run for office. And I think, and I understand in the world we live in and the way things work now, that when I go into my picking my whataboutisms, which have their own issues as far as argumentatively, whataboutisms can be problematic. But I think it's natural, and I think I do it all the time too, that when somebody does a whataboutism, they are by default defending the first person. And that is not my intent at all. When I say what about when the Clintons did this or the Bidens did this or when Bush did this or whatever, it's not to excuse Trump and his actions ever, because I think he is a criminal and I think it's fine and he should be convicted of said crimes. I'm never trying to excuse Trump for being a bad actor, because he is. My point is trying to articulate how I think it's a systematic issue that Trump just kind of, what's the word? I won't say stupid. I don't know what the right word is, but I just think Trump's he's too brazen to give a shit to go through the motions to try to go low key about it. Like he's.
I mean, there's nothing against, and I think I've heard other lawyers say it. Like there's nothing against a non-disclosure agreement. It was just how he chose to have it filed on the books that made it a crime.
Right, but again, that's fine. That's not that again is not my point. I think I think it's such a rando little off the book, or not off the books, but just kind of off the cuff crime it's anyway. It doesn't matter. I don't want to go into. I don't want to relitigate that argument part again. I just want to make the point of I never want to. I never mean to be excusing Trump's actions when I make the argument about, well, this is kind of ridiculous. Why didn't this person get this or this person over here get that? It's never to excuse Trump. That's the point I'm trying to get to.
Right. And
so I never I'm not a fan, other than there is a deep, dark pocket in my soul that kind of is enjoying the chaos. I kind of like the chaos for the sake of the chaos. I don't think the chaos is good for anybody, myself included. But if we're going to be in this broken, stupid system, he kind of highlights how broken, stupid some of the parts of the system are. And I like that part of Trump. I do. it's not good for me. It's not good for you. It's not good for America at large. But I do kind of like the chaos part of Trump for that. So I wanted to get that out there. So just in case anybody, because we had it got a little heated post show last week, and I apologize again for that.
It's okay.
I had an interesting one. I met a guy this week who, it's just fun. It's just the way, like, it's one of those where I got myself in a little bit of hot water for trying to balance out the political jokes. Like, we were allowed to make fun of Trump. We were allowed to make fun of Glenn Jacobs. We were allowed to make fun of any Republicans in this because we weren't talking politics in the conversation, but it was always like, there's always kind of these like inferences into stupid people, and every time somebody would make an inference to a stupid people, they'd compare it to a Trump, or they'd say, like Governor Lee and his dumbass did this thing over here. Like, that was kind of the tenor of the conversation. And so I jumped in with the Biden version, and everybody kind of paused and went silent a little bit. It's like, oh, so this is a partisan joke thing. Okay, I can go that way too. I can make fun of Republicans too. I was just checking where the water was at.
What was this now?
Oh, it's just it was a little, I don't know. We're trying to, we're starting the nonprofit that is the Happy Holler Historic Preservation District, or whatever we're going to call it. We haven't figured out the title. And we've decided that trying to call meetings and invite people to come is a little too serious. So we're starting to do these like happy hours.
Okay.
And so it's like, hey, you're invited to this thing. First round's on us. Just come hang out. We're going to talk about the different stuff that we want to do for the Holler, what we're planning on with this nonprofit, and we'd like your involvement. But instead of it being like, sitting around the boardroom having a conversation, it's more just getting to know each other as people, which is what we did, which is why, I enjoy making political jokes, and I like people are making political jokes. I'm jumping in on that, and I'll have a good time with it. And
nice.
And that's that. So we'll see. I'm excited about it. It's getting there. I got to keep explaining to people who have lived in Knoxville and the South in general longer than me what a holler is, which I find fascinating. I feel like I'm the last person who should know what a holler is, considering I've only been in the South for half my life. Yeah, I've been here long enough.
It's a term a lot of people here don't really, especially city folks.
All these city folks. And so there's that. There was a fun little conversation, speaking of like neighborhoods and branding and stuff like that. I don't recall who the article was by, but there's an article that basically says that a neighborhood rebrand, and this is more the commercial neighborhood, not a residential neighborhood, but when you start seeing things about a neighborhood rebrand, it's usually the first step in gentrification. So if you recall, we had things where like it went from Easttown to Knoxville Center.
Yeah,
that was part of a revitalization attempt to try to get the Easttown shopping and whatever kind of back up on its feet, which that one was a failure. But the one in topic is the Sono. Have you heard Sono floating around as far as?
I guess. I mean, there's like a couple of businesses
Sono
that
Taco,
have that.
right? I think there's a Sono Pizza.
I think so.
But anyway, apparently that is an intentional attempt by a number of business and commercial building owners and stuff like that to try to rebrand South Knoxville with a cool hip vibe.
The Knoxville Center thing, I want to say that happened right around when they were trying to call Westtown Simon Mall.
Sure.
And everybody was like, no, that's Westtown.
We still call it Westtown.
No, it's Simon Mall.
There is no other mall in still Westtown. It's not even it's not even a logical direction thing.
Right.
It was funny going back to my meeting for a second. One of the things that one of the people were making fun of were all us West Knox people, and that was kind of fun because I was like, hey, just so you know, we were like, it's fun because like it's people that are. It was a group. A good section of the group was a more urban set. They live and work downtown, or in the more urban parts of Knoxville, in near North Knoxville. Basically, is where most of these people live and work. That's where the business district that we're working in is. I, on the other hand, do not live down there. I commute in for my business and whatnot. And so there's a couple of jokes like thrown around about how like, all these West Knox people coming in trying to turn this into this, that, and the other. It's like, hi, I'm organizing this. So yeah, that's exactly what's happening. This West Knox guy is trying to turn this little part of town that's kind of lost and forgotten into something that people care about again. If that's problematic, then okay. But this is what we're trying to do here. So it was cool. It was fun. Anyway, didn't mean to roll back into that. But yeah, and so there's this interesting little like back and forth as far as like, again, like I guess that's a way to introduce the topic of gentrification and what it actually means, and I get lost in that argument. Like I understand the premise, I understand the argument that it is not a good thing for people who live in an area to get economically forced out. It's not legally forced out. It's not like Knoxville police are going to come knock on doors and drag people out of their apartments or homes or whatever. Right. But they get economically forced out.
They could if you remain in a house after it's been foreclosed or whatever.
Yeah, I mean there are legal avenues to do stuff like that, but I don't think generally gentrification goes that way. I think generally gentrification
is softer eviction. It's like we're just going to make it really hard for you to live in this area anymore.
Well, it just makes it really like it's really expensive. Is really all it is. Like rents go through the roof. You know, people who buy and manage property will come in and offer big numbers on people, and it's enough that it's like, that's a life-changing number, I'm out of here.
Right.
But it's also probably, you know, a lot of that offering those big life-changing numbers are to small landlords, not to resident owners of houses. Yeah. And so it's like, so you live in a small house off Magnolia that a guy owns like 10 houses over there probably or something like that. I come into that guy and be like, hey, I'm going to give you $1 million for your 10 houses. He's like, cool, I'm out. Yeah. And then I say, all right, I'm taking over your leases. I'm obligated by law. I can't change your lease on you until term ends. But when term ends, here's what's going to happen. Your $700 a month little 1,000 square foot house is now going to be $2,000 a month. It's like, well, I guess we're out of here.
Right.
And that happens over and over again. But, you know, the inverse of that is, generally speaking, not all of them, but generally speaking, a lot of these management groups they will fix up these houses and they will turn them into from, you know, moderate to lower moderate houses to a nicer version of that house. Sometimes they'll tear them down and build new houses or new complexes and stuff like that. It generally like I guess the question to me is like, okay, if gentrification is a problem, like we have this equity task force thing that the city's got going on, African American Equity Task Force. Or I can't remember. I think that's the name. Which is basically, it's just like kind of an administrative group that's helping get grants pushed into East Knoxville neighborhoods for projects, things to make East Knoxville nicer. And it's like, well, what do we expect to happen? Is that not part of the gentrification process? Like, do we want nicer amenities? Do we want parks? Do we want greenways? Do we want all these things? Yes. Well, that's going to raise the values, and it's going to end up in what could be argued to be gentrification over time. And so it's like, how do we revitalize the neighborhood for the people who live there in a way that they can stay living there?
I don't think that would have, you know, redoing sidewalks or putting some more greenscapes in, I don't think that would affect property values as much as, you know, a house being bought and, like you said, being completely renovated to where before it was an $80,000 house. Now it's valued at, you know, $250,000, $300,000.
Sure. Yeah, like
I would say that's going to raise your values more than putting a park in down the street.
But I think if you're a savvy property manager, you're looking at, okay, this city is wanting to invest in this neighborhood. If I get in on the early end of that, as these investments start taking shape, the properties that I buy now will be worth more on the other side.
Right.
And it's a chicken or the egg, I guess, because one is both are affecting the end in process. But it's like, you know, like, because this is the, you know, that we're talking about last week, that Chilhowie parking lot that the city wants to sell and turn into a multi-use, you know, mixed-use commercial residential property or whatever. It's like, you know, with whatever level of TIF or pilot they put in place, they're still not going to be, I'm still guessing they're going to be, especially for the neighborhood, quite expensive apartments.
Probably.
You know, and so it's like, well, is that a good thing? I would think so in the grand scheme of things, but is it going to displace some people? Probably. Because if those apartments get filled up, the people that live there and their expectations for what they're getting for their rent and stuff like that are going to kind of force the economics up in that area. It's just natural.
What say do they have on development around it now that they are a tenant and a brand new apartment complex?
Well, it's not that they have direct. It's not a direct. It's just it's an implied one. It's like, okay, so maybe it's a 50-unit apartment complex, right? Well, then the Kroger that's been over there forever, that's kind of run down and fallen apart. Well, that Kroger closes that one and builds a brand new one a little closer to this apartment complex to try to capture that customer base. Well, that Kroger.
This is a 50-unit?
Yeah.
And you think it's plausible that any like major retailer is going to close down their nearest location.
Absolutely, that would be. I think again because you have groups, you have city administration that's going out and recruiting these companies to make improvements to those parts in those areas. That they're making offers of maybe, hey, there's a piece of property here that you could do, and we'll give you a TIF on it. Or I mean, they're actively going after trying to get more economic investment in the neighborhood. So yeah. But I think it's a chicken or the egg. Like these companies are waiting to see certain things come into place before they pull the trigger on it.
Yeah.
And so, maybe this 50-unit apartment complex is the first. In and of itself, you're right. By itself, probably wouldn't go, boom, the whole neighborhood changes. But I think it's the one of many steps that would, over a fairly reasonably short period of time, quote unquote gentrify a neighborhood.
Maybe.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Again, it's kind of it's a loose term to me, but it's like, it seems to me that half the definition is the definition of gentrification is dichotomous at best. Like, it kind of fights itself in the process. It's like, well, we want this neighborhood to be nicer, and we want people to feel safe, and we want this in this neighborhood. But with all those things comes investment and money and new people moving in. But we don't want any of that, but we want this. Like, it's like the two things don't kind of run together as far as I can tell. And to separate them seems implausible, I guess, at the best. Although the city does have a program that they're working on, which is some tax and whatever, which I'm interested to see that, like, it's an incentive to have for current apartment complex owners to do some decent renovations, but keep rent down. But keep rent where it is. So basically renovate an apartment complex, but keep rents where they are, but the city's going to make that a profitable move for you. Because most apartment...
Just to make them more efficient, or just kind of fix up some things?
To give people nicer places to live. Because a lot of these older complexes, I guess, are in this spot where it's like, they're not slumlords, for lack of a better word, but they're on that edge where it's like, it is not economical for me to fix these apartment complexes.
Right.
But or if I do fix my apartment, like if I have this 20-unit building, if I fix it up and get it back nice into what is current in what would be considered a mid-range apartment complex, I'll have to get everybody out to do the renovation anyway. But when I let everybody back in, it's going to be at 150% rent.
Right.
Rent's going to have to go up to offset the cost of me doing this work. And so a lot of them are just kind of sitting there in this like no man's land. It's not necessarily that they want to evict everybody, but it's like I can't afford to do the work without raising the rent. And everybody wants the rent to stay the same. And it's like, well, and so the city's trying to put some stuff together to help bridge that gap, which is, I think that's a decent program.
Yeah.
Decent idea. We'll see how it executes.
See who they award it to.
Sure. That's one of those things too. But yeah, there's candidate forum this week with Monica and Becky and a couple others. It was all the state level competitive races were invited to a legal women's voter. I don't know who all showed up. I didn't get to watch it. It was Wednesday when I was at this other thing. Monica was interesting. I wish you would have listened to it so we could talk about it a little bit more. But she's exactly who you think she is from the flyer. She's exactly who I thought she'd be. I pushed back on her on a number of things, and like I was joking before we started, it's like, like part of me in the back of my head has this like, I don't know what you call it, this like ridiculous hope that I will show her the error of her ways, and she'll say, you know what, you're right, maybe not. I mean, I think the most important takeaway to me is, so if you guys have listened to any of my interview shows before, I start them off with, hey, tell me about you. Give me a 5-10 minute history review. She talks about that. She's from East Tennessee, Knoxville, blah, 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 blah. Her and her husband own restaurants. And she does an etiquette school, and she's got a really cool, I don't know if it's a volunteer job or not. It's like CASA, C-A-S-A or K-A-S-A. It's a juvenile, it's basically, if you get wrapped up in the juvenile system and you have nobody that's helping you out, she gets assigned to you and helps you walk through it, helps you find services that you need, helps you get a lawyer, all those different things. Like, she's assigned to you, she's an advocate for you if you get wrapped up in the Jubil system and have nothing else to help you out. So I was like, that's a pretty cool program.
Interesting.
And very like it just if I could go back and not do it again. If I did another interview in the future, I might spend a whole episode talking about that because I'd be curious how that has informed her opinions on politics, because I'm sure it has. Okay. And so anyway, I do that segment and she talks about all that stuff, and then I say, okay, cool, that's great. Thanks for sharing all that. All right. So my next general question, if I haven't talked to you before, it's like, why now? Why this race? Why this seat? Why now? That kind of stuff. And basically she goes on to say, Becky co-sponsored the bill writing in exceptions to the abortion law in Tennessee, and that doesn't represent me. And it's like, okay, I understand that. And so we went back and forth a little bit. And I said, so, if your reason for opposing Becky is that you don't feel represented. And it's like, well, what data do you have that says your view on this item is representative of District 6? To which she gave an answer, which is not untrue. Her survey that she does when she goes door knocking agrees with her. But her survey that she does when she goes door knocking is who?
It's a pretty
the party's generated list of likely Republican primary voters.
Right.
And so in District 6, in the state Senate race for Tennessee, District 6 likely Republican primary voters are anti... what did she say that I thought was funny about it? She said, of the people I talked to, or of the doors I knocked on and the people that would actually talk to me, 9 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 said the life is, like, the right to life or whatever is the most important issue to them. And so, and again, like, in a phrase, that's a great political answer phrase. Beautiful political answer phrase, because it sounds like it's a lot, but it's not.
Is that also the 8 and 9 also agree that there should not be exceptions?
That was the inference she played.
She just kind of left it as.
I asked her if
they believe in the right to life. Like, they all agree with me. It's like may.
Well, she said that when they got to the door and when they started talking about it and when they said that they are opposed to abortions and they talked about it further.
Okay.
But again, okay, District 6 in Knox County is 220,000 residents total. Just under half of those are probably either under voting age, eligible to vote for one reason or another. So 110,000 people are potential voters. What do we know about voting in Knox County?
We don't like to do it.
I'm gonna guess. I'll try to look it up while I'm guessing. What would your guess be on what the 2020? That would have been the last time this race, District 6, total votes cast in District 6 in 2020. I know it's a crazy question, but that's what was your guess?
16,000.
I think you're a little low, but not terrible. Voter research 2024. Man, if I would have thought about this before, I would have done it. I would have just emailed Chris and asked him straight up. 2020 Knox County primary election? No. Knox County Commission results. Knox County election results, March 3rd, 2020. This would be presidential primary there at time too. Sorry, listen to me. Google is not the most fun.
Pretty sure there's a pause button over there somewhere.
There is, but there we go. November 3rd, 2020, President First General Election. November 3rd, results by office. Here we go, people. President of the United States, U.S. Senate, U.S. House, Tennessee District 6, Becky Massey versus Jane George. What'd you say? 15?
16, something like that, yeah.
I think it's about twice that. I haven't looked yet. Oh, damn. 97. All right. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. Backing up to of people whom Miss Irvine has probably talked to, 60,000 voted for Becky Massey. I would say half of that bothered with the primary part. I don't think she had a primary challenge anyway. That's pretty impressive, though. 60. Well, that is a Trump Biden. I mean, it is a presidential year ballot. But 97,000 is a pretty good turnout. I get it, but I don't know. So to back it up a little bit, I would say that her data is based on less than 5,000 people.
Possibly.
But they're all also less than 5,000 Republican-leaning, minimum. Like, because I'm on that list, obviously, because that's why I get the mailers and stuff.
Right.
And I certainly don't think that represents my outlook on this. And so that I guess the point is, and again, this isn't Monica's fault per se. It's just like that. But that to me illustrates some of the problem of representative government is that, you know, we talked about this last week, is if she wins the primary, does that mean that the district agrees with her views? Absolutely not. But is she going to act that way? Absolutely. And that seems at least non-democratic to me.
Well, I would hope she knows somewhere in her mind that not everyone, not all of her constituents feel the way she does about things. But
I mean, I agree with that. I think she knows that. Obviously,
a plus sign that, you know, a plurality of constituents did vote for her. So most of the people that are engaged in the process like what she has to say and what she could do.
Maybe. I don't know. You know, I get what you're saying, but I mean, I think that's. I guess what I'm getting at is I don't fault her for that. I think that is the standard outlook by elected officials.
Right. She's looking at the glass half full.
I ran saying this was what's important to me. You voted for me, so what's important to me is important to you. Like, that is the mindset of an elected official.
To an extent.
Yeah.
They like me. They really like me.
What do you mean to an extent? Like, I expound upon that, because I don't think there's any. I don't know how else to take it.
I mean, it depends on how people voted. I mean, maybe they just didn't like one of the opposing candidates and was like, well,
yeah, but from their mindset, not from your and my mindset. Like, I agree with you, because I would think, you know, there's a whole subset of people who won't vote for Becky Massey because of some other reason. There's like, I can't vote for Becky again. Becky screwed me over on this thing over here.
All right.
And so I can't vote for Becky. But that doesn't mean I am on board with her. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, I guess, is my problem, because it's not democratic. It's not authoritarian. It's not, you know, it's not any, it's its own sub-genre of
it's just
democracy.
A fact of life. You can't make everyone happy all the time.
Yeah, but the way Tennessee does it, you can't make most of the people happy most of the time. Like, the idea of having a representative and a democracy and compromise in government is supposed to be that, you know, we can't make everybody happy, obviously. But we should be able to make the most people happy. That would be, I would think, how democracy would work.
Should.
You know, like, that would be the idea, is that the idea is that we're trying to make as many people, maybe not happy might be a poor term, but, you know, we're trying to make decisions to benefit the most, to benefit the majority when we make decisions on new laws or new rules or do this or do that. That the idea is to make the most benefits. And then the other big one with Monica was her school choice thing. And I got to a point where I was just like, but she homeschooled her youngest. Her oldest two went through Knox County schools. She homeschooled her youngest, and that opened her eyes to the options that are in education. I was like, yeah, but like, the homeschoolers of Tennessee on the last version of Governor Lee's thing got Governor Lee to take them out. Like, homeschool families don't want this voucher program. And they don't want to be included in it because they know that if they are, that they're going to have to answer for it. And I was like, you know, as a Republican, you know, if they're spending tax dollars, you want to know what they're doing with it, right? Yeah. And it's like, well, that's the point. The point of the private school, or the point of homeschooling, is that they don't have oversight on how you teach and what you're teaching. And I know private schools don't want that in the long term either. And I would think if the whole argument is that the state, who sucks at schools, is going to give vouchers so you can get away from the state's version of sucky schools, well, if they're going to come in over the top and deny vouchers without access or without certain things happening, then the vouchers are like, it's just going to turn private schools into state schools functionally.
Right.
And it's like, so I was like, I put it to you is, why don't we just do away with public schools at large and not tax us for that? And that's actually the result you're actually advocating for. If you think the school sucks at it and whatever. But I mean, she believes it, and I think that's the important thing. That's the important takeaway I got from this. Isn't a political move. Like I was talking to some people earlier today about it. It's like, like Daniel Herrera, to me, a former chair of the Knox County Party, the Republican Party, a candidate for law director, former candidate for law director, stuff like that. He, to me, he says the words that the political gurus say, this is how you win. I don't think he believes a lot of it. I think he is a political actor in the truest sense of actor terms, where he is playing, not dissimilar to Trump for that matter. He'll tell the crowd what they want to hear, having no intent to actually follow through with that. Right. Now I will give this my certification on my take on Monica is that she is absolutely real about what she's talking about. This isn't a political game to her. This is this important to me that I'm going to do this, and when I get the job, this is how I'm going to treat it. And so, at least my take on her so far, maybe if she gets elected and the party and the machine starts doing what it does, she'll step back from some of that. But at least as of right now, she is a true activist for what she says she's an activist for. I believe that this is her intent. I believe that she thinks there's pornography in elementary school libraries, and that we have to do something to get them out of there. I believe that she believes that. And she is going to go out and do her best to stop it. But she did make an interesting point when she does this CASA thing
right.
And so some of that is she has to kind of fight parents who are abusing their kids, because that might be why they're in the system or whatever. And so one of the things she has to do like house visits and stuff like that. And she's required to report if she finds pornography in a house that is in an accessible place to the child, she has to report that. And I was like, okay, I guess that makes sense, sort of. And she's like, but the school library doesn't? And I was like, example, please? I don't get it. Like, what school library pornography thing? And it's like, I don't know, it was weird. It was interesting. Check out the episode. I don't know how else to break it all down other than, like I said, I think she believes it. I don't think she's putting on an act to win votes. I think this is real to her. And I think that's important to know as a voter, that this isn't, that, there's a difference in those two styles of politicians. What?
It's not worth throwing it out there.
Why not?
I agree with many that think the Bible should be re-looked at when you want to talk about pornography. And they're like, oh, there's so much good in the Bible. It's like, well, no, if you read it, there's a lot of incest, bestiality that would be against what you say that you're against. But because it's the Bible, it's okay if it's...
Well,
who was it? Lot and his daughters, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of,
Yeah, there's all sorts of...
I agree with you. I don't disagree with that.
But that we should keep in the schools, because that has moral value.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is inconsistent at best. I agree with you there.
If you're going to have guidelines and pick and choose, if a book contains these subjects, then take it out.
Right. And when they go, well, what about? Well, no, not the Bible. It's like, well, no, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I don't quite understand. Like I told her too, it's like, I don't know where I'm in on the vouchers thing. I go back and forth, or the school choice or whatever it is. I don't know what the answer is. But it sounds to me like those who are in favor of the school choice are really just in favor of non-state schooling, which I'm kind of in favor of. I get that. Like, let's get the state out of the school. Let's not make it a state entity. Let's make it a minimum. If it's going to be a public entity, let's make it a local entity instead of a state entity. I could maybe get behind that premise. I don't understand, like, to me that the requirement, the function that is a state level, that schools are a state level entity, doesn't I don't know, like, it doesn't make sense to me. why we like. I can't see the value in why, other than that's how we always have. Like, to change it would be a big effort, and it's like, well, at least argumentatively they suck. So maybe to change it, maybe the big effort's worth it, and let's break them and make it county level. Let the counties run their own schools. Get the state out of it.
Would it still be considered semi-state run?
No, I mean everything that happens in the state and county or city governments are at the pleasure, if you will, of the state. Like, the city of Knoxville exists because the state of Tennessee says it does, or says it can. Like, you can't just incorporate a city without county and state approval.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that example, I don't think would make any kind of monumental difference.
I don't know. I mean, I think well, because it goes back to my thing where I don't think the school board's that important. I think
I don't think schools are failing as much as people want to say.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. I acknowledge that, but I'm saying, like, where the school board is like this body that just, to me, it just exists to appear to listen to the public, the local public. That's what most of it, like, you know, all these meetings when everybody's getting all hot and bothered about this, that, and the other. Yes, some of it is on topic on stuff they can do, but a lot of it isn't. Like, really, you know, the superintendent has a pretty good authority on stuff. And now, to be fair, the superintendent works for the school board. So the school board does have the ability to hire and fire at will. But you know, but the curriculum-wise is all handed down from the state, like disciplinary policy, how they, like, what vacation days, what days we take off, what days are in. Some of them are mandated federally and statewide. Like, certain holidays are required to be off out of school because, like, Election Day is a federal. They're federally required to be closed for election days. Like, it's not a choice that the schools say, well, we're just gonna take that day off so the kids don't have to mess with all these people coming out. It's like, no, we have to close schools on Election Day.
Yeah.
You know, we have to close schools on Memorial Day. We have to close whatever there's a set of holidays that the schools have to be closed by federal law. There's probably another set of days that the schools have to be closed by state law. But, like, you know, was it Maryville schools? They start in like late July, like very early August, but they're done in late April, very early May.
Really?
They're like a month ahead of Knox County's calendar because Maryville's Blount County Schools wanted to set it up that way for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And so that's what the local school boards have authority over. It's like, okay, well, we're going to do this long a day. Like, the state says you have to have this many days, and a day consists of this many hours by state law. But what days you go to school is kind of up to the school board. Like, that's the big one. Like, this, I think, I don't know. I'd have to ask that question. But I think if Knox County Schools as an entity wanted to do a year-round schedule, I think they could, without the state or anybody else coming on board, because they control their schedules.
All right.
Be interesting. I'll have to add that to my list of things to ask somebody in the school.
Yeah, I'm sure they could.
But I guess the better way to put it is, like, the meat and potatoes, all the stuff the most controversial shit that we're talking about in schools is state level. It's not local. Local hears about it, but the actual decision makers on that are in Nashville. You know, but, like, she implied, like, this is probably the craziest part of the conversation with her. So, doing what she does with her day work and whatnot, she's been an advocate for something, and so she's been in Nashville a bunch, and she's met different leaders in different groups and this, that, and the other. And she was telling me a story about how she met with the superintendent of materials or something like that for the state of Alabama. So every book, every whatever comes across this person's desk when they decide that they're going to teach history, they're going to use this book to teach history, whatever it is. And so apparently the state had earmarked some funds to make sure that that each classroom had a small library of books that the teachers could contribute to, but that the state would make sure that there's some stuff there from the get-go. And so this person goes shopping for like some book sets on relevant topics and age relevant to the classrooms they're looking for. So like she's looking for books for a third grade classroom, just kind of shove in the corner. Not something they're doing anything in class on, but stuff that's inside the realm of conversation of things that they are studying maybe in their social studies or history or whatever. So, but so she goes into the story about how basically she finds this book set. It's like 15 little small books with a lot of pictures or whatever, but it's like American Heroes or something like that. And the brochure and the paperwork and all the stuff that the publisher had sent to her to sell it to her, it's like, John Adams and George Washington, but it's like military stuff and, like talking about military heroes that we've had over the years and the different wars and this, that, and the other. And so she orders the books and they get there and she comes to find out that somewhere in one of the books, one of the heroes is some dude who came out in the Army and how he's a hero for coming out against all the pressures of not coming out. And her take and this lady who is the commissioner of books or whatever for Alabama was pissed off because they got one past her. It's like, what do you mean they got one past her? This publisher has some agenda to sneak these books in? Like, that's what was implied in the conversation.
I'll sell you 99 books.
But and I was like, well, hold on a second. That's that person's job. It's their jobs to pick those books out. Well, yeah, but they didn't tell her in the whatever. Then read the book before you buy it. What are we talking about here? It's a multi-million-dollar contract. You're just saying, oh, well, I got one page that I glanced over about the general topics of a 20-book series. Let's throw them in the classrooms and let me get mad about one paragraph that I didn't see. It's like, then you need to read the fucking book before you let it in the classroom.
True.
So what you're telling me is that person's not doing their job. And then, because that was kind of what I was going off about, like, it's like the state lets the books in these libraries. Like it, and I, as far as I know, most of the books in the library are purchased by the state of Tennessee, and I'm pretty sure it goes through that library's process in the national body that does that kind of shit. I don't think it's like I can donate my copy of whatever to the school library,
right?
At least for like actual library books, they may have a section that is donated books or something like that. But most of the stuff that's in the schools that isn't like the teacher's little mini cubby one, most of the stuff's in the schools came from the state. I was like, well, if they're sneaking porn in a third grade book that's in the library, if they're sneaking porn in, they're sneaking it past you in the process of getting it in. Why are you letting it in the first place? And it's like, well, because the publishers are being deceptive about it. And it's like, well, no, you're telling me that they're not doing their jobs. They're not bothering to look through it before they accept these books onto our kids' shelves.
I don't really know how that process goes.
Yeah, I don't know either. Obviously, it's just they buy the books that the publishers tell them to buy. At least that's what the inference from the story she told with the Alabama person was. Is they say, oh, here's a great book series. It's great for third graders. Hey, we snuck some gay stuff in there, suckers. And it's like, so, but I don't know. I would think that's the job. If that's your job is to get books and find books and bring them into the libraries, I think it's your responsibility to screen those actual books, not some summary written by the publisher. Because what do salespeople do?
Sell.
Exactly. They don't care. And I'm like, are we trying to say that there's not a publisher that is making books that fit the curriculum and ideas that these schools want? Which is another thing going back to, take it out of the state level, make it local, it's a whole different animal. You lose that volume buying power, but you have a lot more ability to control it.
True.
And when the locals get involved, whether that's with donating books and stuff like that, you actually have an avenue for communication instead of, I need to call Elaine Davis and be like, hey, Elaine, I don't think this book should be in my kid's library because Elaine doesn't answer my phone calls. I'm sorry, Elaine, I'm picking on you until I get you on the show.
I think each school's librarian has some control as well.
But I think it's from a approved list. I don't think it's
from
just
an approved list. Yeah,
I think I think a librarian could bring in and be like, "Hey, I heard about this great book series that was just released by this publisher.
All right, it's really popular. Whatever. All the kids keep asking me for it.
Right? Can I get these? But I think there's a process for that because I think
So I think there's like approved.
Right. I don't think they could just go to Barnes and Noble, Books A Million, whatever, and pick up a set and shove it in the library without some sort of documentation approving it. But again, I mean, but the point of all that is that it doesn't make a bit of fucking sense. If we are the super Republican, right-leaning, conservative stronghold that is the state of Tennessee, and we're taking down this wokeness bullshit, how is it getting here? You control the fucking schools. How is it getting here?
They're tricking us.
Well, then you're fucking stupid, and we need our kids taught by the smart people. Maybe that's my official take here.
It's the woke mob. They're sneaky.
Yeah, they're super sneaky. I mean,
they're loud and proud, but they're sneaky.
You know, like, I mean, it's like, I don't know, like, I don't know. Like, I get it. And again, this goes back to, this is a person who believes what she is saying. She believes that for a third grader, it is immoral for them to, for a story of somebody coming out being a hero's story, to show that story to a third grader. She believes that. And so to her, that is an immoral book in the library. That is something that is teaching that is showing something that she sees as a vice, as a virtue. That is the truth of the matter here. And it's like, you know, but you know, it goes back to like another one of my main takeaways. It's like, parent your kids, deal with it, teach your kids yourself, get engaged. Your kids are going to address these things. They're going to face these things somewhere. You can't hide it from them.
Right.
So either figure out, like I was saying, and maybe poorly last week, about maybe you should read the book before your kid does if you know what's in the library. So if they do read it, you can talk to them about it. But at least know what's there, and at least know some topics that you might have to address with them and how you feel about those topics. So when they do come to you and say, I was reading this thing and the book had the girl in the book had two mommies and I don't understand. Okay, well, kid, here's my take on how gay couples work and lesbianism and whatnot, and I can install my version of the values in that. And I believe that it's a sin and it's an abomination of God, and a woman should not lay with another woman. It says so in the Bible. If that's your take on it, engage your kid in that conversation and make it compelling. Because, like, I don't know, again, Monica's like, you know, these people, like, these teachers have great influence over our children. Yeah, they do.
Not as much as you do.
But, right, if you're an engaged parent, they shouldn't have as much as you do.
Right.
Now, if you're an absentee parent that just throws them on the bus and then forgets about them all day, and then when they get home, they go in their room and play video games and ignores them and doesn't have meaningful conversation about the world around them when you get the chance to, then yeah, the most influential person on their personality and their views on the world is going to be somebody other than you. But that's not the teacher's fault. That's your fault for being a lazy parent.
I saw a story. It was, I guess, attendance levels from last school year to, I guess, the most current. And it was pretty astounding how many people or how many kids just like weren't there for a good chunk of the year. And they equated it, you'd really only have to miss like 2 days a month or whatever to be right there, I guess, beyond that level of you've missed too many days for the school year. But it was an increase from the year prior. I think it was just across Tennessee. I don't think it was necessarily like Knox County, or it may have been a U.S. kind of poll.
What was did they have any, like, other than just raw numbers, was there any, like, analysis of what's causing this or why or anything like that?
You know, no, there's some kids that are, you know, more illness prone. I mean,
my youngest.
And if, you know, kids are, or if parents are actually doing what they're supposed to, and that, you know, if they're running a fever, they're supposed to not have a fever for 24 hours. And I certainly sent my kids to school. They had a fever the night before. They didn't have it the morning of. So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And I needed to work. So,
yeah. Yeah, they don't. I mean, it's one of those. They make it real hard to play by the rules because it's like you have to have a note and stuff like that, and it's like,
all right, he was having a fever. Like, I didn't want to take him to the doctor.
Right. I was like, you want to pay my copay?
He wasn't sick.
Cool.
He was
I'll take him to the ER to get to get a note so that I can not have to. Like, I mean, they got aggressive the last couple of years because again, the data speaks. The data is true that like the number one factor in success rate for students is attendance. Like, it's a huge factor, maybe not the number one, but it's a huge factor in the success rate for students. So like, or maybe the inverse is the correct statement statistically. A very large percentage of students who have significant outages from school for one reason or the other tend to struggle to keep up with their grades and to maintain grade level, and they get further and further behind to the point where they may or may not graduate and that kind of stuff. Like, that is a statistical fact. And it's like, okay, I understand that as a statistical fact. But when I pull my kid on, especially, you know, the last Monday of school when an optional field trip, it was what was it? We talked about it. It was an optional field trip to main event with the whole of your grade, or sit in the library and do worksheets all day.
Yeah. And
he didn't want to go to the field trip, and he didn't ask me, so I wasn't opposed. I would have probably complained because I'm cheap, but I wasn't opposed to pitching in the $20 or whatever it is for him to go do the thing. He's just like, I don't want to go. It's stupid. There's too many kids there. You can't really do anything. It's just chaos for 3 hours, and then we go back to school. I don't want to go. And I was like, okay, well then you're going to school. He's like, I'm gonna sit in the library and do worksheets. And so I let him. I let him play hooky that day. And I got the text notification and the email that says your student was absent today. We need notification by the end of business day tomorrow. Please call or email right now to give the reason why your kid missed school today.
Right.
And I just ignored it this time. Usually I follow up on him, but I ignored it because I don't know.
I get it to an extent of asking for a doctor's note because I'm sure there's some people who take advantage of it.
Well, I wish I would have asked for it because I should ask Monica about this among other people. It's like it's one of the ways that in a reason and honestly it's fairly reasonable philosophically. It's one of the ways that the schools look in on the health and safety of students. When they miss school, they want to know why.
Right.
They want to know why because, well, if it's just a shit parent who just doesn't care if they go to school or not, and they leave them at the house alone all day, or they leave them at school, the parent doesn't care either way, whatever. That we get into it could be on the knife, it could be on the edge of a neglectful abuse situation. That's it's a quantifiable way to track potential abuse of a parent, which I don't see as necessarily a bad thing, but it's also intrusive to those of us who aren't abusing our children and are like, you know what? I just kept them home today. That's a good enough answer for me. Well, we need an excuse from the doctor or whatever that said the thing. I did get in trouble on that topic on doctor's notes.
Really?
Well, we had an employee whom halfway through a shift said, my psychologist says I need to take a break. I need some mental health days. Which, old school me, whatever, I'm an asshole. Fine. I don't understand what that is, a mental health day. But it's like, yeah, sure, whatever, He's like, how much PTO do I have? Can I take off the rest of this week and all of next week? And it's literally like halfway through a shift, like starting now, can I do this?
Damn.
And it's like, yeah, okay. I mean, if it's important and your doctor says so, sure. I just need some notification from your doctor to make sure that, this is on the up and up. And then it ends up the clinic that he was going to check himself into wasn't taking any more patients, so he decided to stay and finish his shift. And then the next day, they are taking selfies at the lake with some friends drinking beers, putting it on their Instagram, and he's friends with other employees on Instagram.
Right.
And it comes back around. But then I also get a doctor's note from him. And so I had a little bit of hesitation on whether I thought this doctor's note was legit. Like, is this legit? Like, you obviously weren't. I mean, I don't know what the doctor told you to do.
Like, I'm recommending you need to take 2 weeks off and go to the beach.
You need to go to the beach and get drunk with your friends, which is fine. But so, so I was like, you know what? It's well within my rights to ask. And so I took that doctor's note. I pulled the phone number off. I called the doctor's office. It's like, hey, I'm just trying to verify that this was legitimately written out of this office. And it's a VA, so it's a mess anyway. And so I get passed around a little bit, and I finally get to the nurse for the doctor, and they're like, yeah, that's legit. I was like, okay, cool. Thank you for your time. I didn't ask any questions. I wasn't trying to,
right,
what's wrong with him? Tell me about it. Why does he need to be off work?
Right.
There is, I do have the question in my back of my head. It's like, what is so stressful about working for me that you need time off of that because it's for your own mental health? It's a pretty low-key job. I'm just saying. Anyway, whatever. So I guess his doctor called him and said, hey, your boss called to see if this note was real. And so he came in and quit. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry, man. I wasn't trying to be like that, but, that sucks.
Let's see. I found that one story. In 2023, roughly 1 student out of 4 was chronically absent across the school year.
What's chronically absent defined as?
That was one thing I talked about. His parents couldn't really define what chronically absent was. Only about a third of parents are able to properly define chronic absenteeism. Can you?
Well, I know the
which of the following do you think defines chronic absenteeism?
Real quick before you get there, hold on.
Yeah.
Like Knox County schools, 8 in a year is when they start really, really cracking down.
Really?
And so, like, hey, it goes from, please let us know why your student missed school today, to we're having a conference. You need to come in and talk to us, the principal and the guidance counselor, and talk to us about why your kids missed so much school. My brother and his family got in an issue because they skipped a week to go to Disney a couple years ago. They didn't do it on spring break or whatever. They just took a week off of school and went to Disney. And so they'd missed some days. Like they went like late winter, early spring, so it was like, March, late February or something like that. And so his kids had missed a couple days in the first semester of school. And so like that whole, at the end of that week, that was like 9 days that they'd missed school, that both kids had missed school. And so they made them come and do a conference, like a parent-teacher conference, on why their kids are missing so much school, because they passed that 8-day marker.
Right.
I think it's 8 days.
That sounds about right.
But it's something like that. So 8 days, you look what the kids are in school for 9 months. It's a day a month. Miss 1 day for whatever reason, 1 day a month.
Right.
That would be my definition. That would be my assumed definition of Knox County Schools' definition of chronic absenteeism. Once a month.
Apparently 10% is, I guess, considered chronic absenteeism.
10%, huh?
Missing 10% of the school year.
Interesting. 180 days, so 18. Maybe Knox County is 8 a semester.
I'm trying to see if there's anything else interesting about it.
I would like to know if there's anything else interesting about it.
So, let's see. Many children and parents simply began to see less value in, I guess during the pandemic. One of the prominent explanations here that meets the evidence is that during the pandemic, many children and parents simply began to see less value in regular school attendance.
I mean,
scholars call it norm erosion.
The couple of days the kids had virtual school that I had to sit in and try to babysit for, I had some questions about how much value they got out of their days. Because that was a mess. But it was virtual, so it wasn't necessarily a regular day. On kids in education, Knox County has had a significant increase in their 3rd and 4th grade reading retention per TCAP data.
Oh, goody. So it went up?
Yeah. Which I don't know. I don't know what those statistics actually functionally mean. It's apparently like, I think the Compass guys were talking about it today. I think, if I heard Jesse right, Knox County schools, 40-something% of students are either English as a second language or have some other, or are somewhere in the, have some documented disability. So they don't count in the statistics. So almost half the students don't count in these statistics.
Huh.
Because it's either a second language or they have some sort of documented disability that gives them, I don't know, whatever the word it is. I don't mean to. I can't think of the word. They don't count them against. They're not counted in the statistic for on grade level,
right?
Because they're second language or they're otherwise autistic or disabled or have a speech impediment or whatever it is that I don't know exactly what falls under that category. A documented learning disability, I guess, maybe the better way to say it. But like almost half of the students in Knox County schools.
See, a good chunk of that's probably like ADD and ADHD.
Yeah. Which, begs the question, like, how many kids do you think we were in school with that weren't documented because it didn't really exist yet?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
it did not exist, I'm sorry, but it wasn't as prevalent or as highly diagnosed as it is now.
I had a few friends in like middle school that were, I think that was before, I don't know if Adderall was a thing, but they were on Ritalin at that time for ADD.
Yeah.
And there was always that argument of, is a kid being a kid or are they actually, having trouble I think, truly sitting down and trying to focus when they needed to.
I think our generation was quick to be medicated for it. I think it was overdiagnosed, would be my take, personally.
I mean, it's been a common occurrence among the population. Go back, not just kids, but,
I think I've got some. I think I've got a touch of the whatever. I think there's times where I just cannot, for whatever reason,
Right.
You know, is it a diagnosable disability to me? I don't know. I don't know where it would sit. I'm sure I'm on the spectrum, I guess is the phrase that would be used.
It's possible.
Very on the very low end of the spectrum, but somewhere.
I think there's a lot of people that kind of have that on some kind of spectrum, but
I think the reality is it's a spectrum. Everybody's on it. It just depends where you're at. There's a normal section, and I'm probably right on the edge of that, if not in the middle of it.
Right. Yeah, but it's really becomes an issue is when it is affecting your daily life or having to work or do schoolwork or whatever.
Yeah, there is like a apparent movement to stop medicating ADHD kids. Yeah. Can't remember what it was called.
But even like the 50s and 60s, there were a lot of housewives that were, drugged up. You go back to the early 20th century. Yeah, I mean, they were giving away heroin for this and that, and all sorts of just. So it's been a common thing to just kind of like throw drugs at it.
Sure.
Miracle tonics.
Yeah. I couldn't even begin to start a disagreement argument on that in any way, shape, or form.
Yes, I don't think it's anything
we survive as
that's
a species, though, so I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah. We eventually start to learn from our mistakes. We're like, wait, we don't function very well when a lot of people are just doped up on shit.
Yeah. It's not the best.
No. It's not conducive.
Might be fun for them. Who knows? I don't know. I wouldn't tell. I'm not going to yuck anybody's yum. If you're happy with that setup, get you some. I don't know. It would be very case-by-case particular to make these jokes on. What was I going to say? I felt incredibly, incredibly old today. Speaking of special days that happened this last week. I made an Office Space reference in our staff chat.
Nobody got it.
Yeah. I mean, literally, the first message today in our staff chat was, has anybody seen my stapler? And I was like, I don't want to do this. Somebody else please do this so I don't have to do it. Nobody chimed in, and so I went and found a GIF. Have you seen my stapler?
Right.
And nothing. No ha-has, no LOLs, no thumbs up, no likes, no nothing. And I talked to the person separately outside of the group chat, and they're like, I thought you were making the Jell-O mold joke from The Office. Because there's this episode of The Office where everything's in Jell-O or whatever. And I was like, holy shit, hold on, wait a minute. You don't know the reference. She's like, no. Fuck. And I was thinking about that a lot after that. It's like, it may be something like, because we got our family thing coming up, and I'm be hanging out with my parents and my brother and my sister for a little while, and their families and all that kind of shit. I think about talking to my dad about that and be like, hey, so like pop culture, like normal day to day, like pop culture stuff when you were a young adult, like, after you got home from Vietnam, you and mom were married, you were working, that kind of stuff. Maybe just had the kids, just had Jill, my sister, or maybe right before you had Jill or whatever, like this, whatever, you went out to the movies or you went and did whatever, like pop culture stuff. Like, at what point did you realize your references didn't land anymore? Yeah. Like with your coworkers and stuff like that. Because like, I still, like, I look back and like, that's a great movie. That's a great fun, like I feel like it's been a while. I'm going to need to rewatch it. It's on Hulu, by the way, if anybody wants to rewatch it too. I went and researched that today. I feel like that movie is probably still very relevant today to people working. Like I've never worked in an office job, and so it's not like it was directly relevant to me. Jennifer Aniston's character worked at the Shenanigans or whatever, right? And she didn't have enough flair, but he didn't say that whole bit, which is also great. And so like that part was funnier to me because I worked in restaurants, but still, like the whole premise of the Office, of that Office comedy that was that show, I feel like it was a relevant movie. Yeah, but I feel like it'd still be relevant, like the context and why, like the stupid grind of these stupid jobs is whatever. But maybe not, man. I could be wrong. Like if I go down to the Axel Logistics office down the street where they're all working in this office building, and do a showing of that movie with them, and see if it makes any sense to them. I mean, they got a ping pong table in the break room. That's cool. Yeah. It's one of these new age cool offices. Like it's not cubicles. It's just like a big room.
It's big open
with
space.
A bunch of desks. Yeah, and they have standing desks, and some people are sitting down, some people have their standing desks. And
I saw
They've got a keg. They got like a 3-tap kegerator in the break room.
Damn.
I don't know if that's true or not.
Right. I think it was like Hawkins County, one of the surrounding counties, got some grant to retrofit like 2 or 3 of their schools that had like the open design. I had to look it up, and I'm like, what was this? And apparently it was, I guess, where there are a lot more like classrooms in kind of a larger open area and less walls.
Huh.
So I think wouldn't be conducive. And they were like, yeah, this is really helping with the learning experience. And I'm like, well, yeah, it'd be kind of hard to talk over like the teacher that's, 75 feet away from you when you're trying to teach them about blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, I kind of want to, I was struggling trying to picture it. I'm like, is it just kind of like a big, like cafeteria size area? I remember at Bearden Middle, they had, those like weird like dividers they could put between classrooms. But I don't think that would be considered open. I guess it was something that was bigger in the 60s and 70s whenever they kind of designed the school. I was like, well, good. These kids can finally have their own classrooms.
Yeah. I remember my elementary school when I was a kid, when I lived in Florida. It was a big, like, octagon. I don't know. My recollection of it was that it was huge. But I was also only there for kindergarten, first grade, second grade, so I was little. So it might not have been that huge, but it was like a big octagon, and the library was in the middle. And the library was open. Like, it was sunk in and open, like you went down, like, 3 or 4 stairs to get to the library's level. Mm-hmm. But, like, you could, like, there was no hallway. It was just a big circle around the library. And you could see down into the library from the walk around. So you could see the classrooms that they're on the other side, but they were all rooms.
Right.
But I was also, I left there when I was in second grade, so my recollection could be totally wrong.
This is true.
I remember rando things about that house, but about living in Florida is very, very limited. But anyway, I don't know. There's some pictures I can't really make out what an open concept classroom looks like.
Yeah, I don't think I saw too much else going on locally.
I mean, some other election stuff started to roll in. We've had some excuse me. We've had some forums and the likes.
Yeah, see more signs out and about.
Yep, starting to see more signs out and about. I've had more people knocking on my door.
Ooh.
Which I don't know.
I had some guy show up at the house yesterday. He was trying to sell some like bug treatments.
Oh yeah,
but gave me a fist bump when he was like leaving. I'm like, I almost wanted to be like.
Did he have literature? Did you ask him for paperwork?
No, I was trying to discourage him. I'm like, oh man.
Did he have an iPad?
So. He's like, oh, well, I've got so and so, and I'm like, I don't know who they are.
I think I know who that guy is. I think that guy was at my house too.
He had like some kind of like green shirt with like a B emblem, or maybe it was an A,
Aspen or Acorn or something like that.
I didn't ask him. He's like, well, I got so and so to sign up, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, he did that. He did that sales pitch on me, and
it's like I'm saving a lot of people money. I'm like, okay, cool.
And I was like, yeah, friend, neat, cool. I like it. Good for you.
I mean, I didn't really want to encourage him to like, oh, well, give me some information, please.
Well, I was like, I'm not going to say yes right now. It's something I'm going to discuss with my wife and see if it's something that we need to do. Blah 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 blah. Do you have any literature? And I can give you a call and maybe set up a service. I'm not opposed. Like, I'm not opposed to listening to your idea. That's cool. This is what we do. So it's going to cost you. All right, cool. All
right.
Is this something I want to do? Is it worth it to me? Does that make sense to me? I'm not going to say yes right now. I will talk to my wife. Do you have any literature so I can show my wife it? Like, no. And he showed me like pictures and stuff on his iPad, and I was like, well, if you don't have a business card and you don't have like a little pamphlet or something you can give me. He's like, no, I'm sorry. I was like, okay. And he laughed. And then he came back like 2 nights later. Because the first time he did it,
I got my business card.
The first time I was like, hey, we got some literature, man. I'm in the middle of cooking dinner. I got to go. He's like, no, I'll come back. I was like, okay, cool. But I thought what he meant was he's going to come back with some literature. Instead, he comes back 2 nights later, giving me the same pitch. It's just a little bit different time. So, I mean, he took his notes. He made notes on us because he didn't come back at the same time.
Right.
He's like, okay, this is when they're doing dinner. This is not the time to come back. And then I lied to him. I was like, it's half lie. My wife is the champion of our yard. This is her yard. It is set up and dealt with her ways. I was like, my wife's the boss of the yard, man. I'm going to have to talk to her about this. He's like, well, is she here? It's like, yeah, but she's not coming out. He's like, well, I mean, I could tell her all about it so you don't have to translate it. I was like, no, she's in the bath. If you want to leave me some stuff, I will talk to her about it. And so, like, it got to the tail end of it where I started having to be a little bit more stern with them. Like, I enjoy it a little bit. Like, I don't mind the back and forth. I question whether or not I'm accidentally leading them on a little bit, which is not my intent. Like, I wasn't trying to say that I wanted to or not to do the service.
Right.
But, you know, like, if you give me the right pitch and and it makes sense to me, I'm not going to say no. Like, I'm going to let you do your thing, you know. You could enlighten me on something that I didn't realize that made sense. And like, oh, okay. Because like termite treatment is something that we've been talking about. We need to start getting our termite treatment back up to date, which was not included in this guy's service. But I wouldn't have known that if I would have just been like, nope, go away.
Right.
Now I just know that it's not part of the total service.
Yeah.
And I think about that in the environmental sense. And as you all know, I'm not super environmental. Like, basically the way he pitched it is like, you know, basically what we do is we set up a perfect perimeter around your house, and then we push out, and we go all the way to the end of your driveway, all the way to your property line, so they're all out of your yard. We just push them into everybody else's yard. It's like, well, what you're trying to, but what your sales pitch is, you're trying to get the whole neighborhood.
Right.
Like, so where do they go? Are they all dead? Is that a good thing? I know they're annoying. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. So what's that happen with, like, me and my neighbor both hire you for this service? Like, which way are you pushing? You're
going to push it in his yard, and you push it back in your yard.
Right.
But I mean, but in the grand scheme of like the overall ecological, it's like, is that a good thing? Like, I don't like bugs; they're annoying. Don't get me wrong. And I don't give a shit about the environment when it comes to as far as like keeping certain bugs out of the house. But in the yard, I'm okay with them existing. They annoy me. In certain places in the yard, we'll light a citronella candle because we're sitting around watching TV. We like to watch movies outside and stuff like that.
Right.
I'll light some citronella. I'll spray some off on myself. We'll be okay. But, like, I don't know if we need to eradicate them from existence. I don't know if that's good for the greater scheme of life on Earth.
Birds are eating something.
Yeah. I'm not an environmentalist, don't get me wrong. But I just feel like that's maybe a little bit overkill, pun intended.
Right.
But, yeah, what's else going on? The Task Force School Board... Oh, that the Knox County Election Commission had a meeting last Friday, a voting meeting last Friday on that challenge to the signatures on that one guy's application to run.
I think I remember you talking about that.
Stacey Bryan Smith.
Where his opponent was trying to say, like, these are all his friends.
No, that these aren't real people or they're not legitimate. Apparently the election commission did dig through and they found one. It was a person with the same name as a neighbor. So it's the same name, same street. But the person who had signed the petition for his eligibility, they had been purged from the voter rolls because they hadn't voted in a certain amount of time. So I don't remember what the rule is. I'll ask Chris Davis at some point. But essentially, like, if you don't vote in, it's like 6, so 10 or 12 years, like it'd be like 6 consecutive election cycles. If you don't vote, they'll purge you from the roll. They'll say you don't exist. They'll basically, the assumption I think on paper is that you have moved.
I almost want to just stop voting so they'll stop texting me. I was getting some weird ones.
You? Just stop voting in primaries and they'll stop bothering you.
Oh, okay, cool.
That might not be true.
I don't know how I got on the list. Like, there were some weird ones coming through this week. It's all just like asking for funding. And like a couple days I saw it like progressively, like, 300% match.
For what?
400% match.
But like what races?
I think it's all just like Biden.
No.
Because I think it's all just like presidential shit.
Yeah, you got on that. I'm gonna blame that on Matt. Matt Shears signed you up when you weren't looking.
Maybe.
That sounds like a Matt move.
It was like a bunch of fun. It's like
because Dee started
Jerry Seinfeld just laid the smack down. Barbara Streisand just blah blah blah. Jimmy Kimmel blah 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 blah. I'm like, what the fuck?
Look, I mean, the Biden campaign's got some work to do. They've got some serious work to do because to go back to the beginning of the episode. Trump's a douchebag. Don't get me wrong, but I think I think the conclusion that I've come to in all our conversations and all the time is that economics is number 1A for 85% of the population. I think there's 10 or 15% of the population that other issues supersede economics. I think that 10% being an abortion, whether they're pro or con. I think inside that 10% would be actual border control, pro or con. I think, all these other superfluous issues combined for maybe 10 or 15% of the voting populace. But I think the voting populace at large, absolutely bottom line, cares absolutely about their bottom line. And data be damned, a lot of people feel like their bottom line is not in a good place right now. And that isn't, especially with Biden, at least had been running on that Bidenomics platform for a little bit. I don't know if that's still primary piece of their platform or not, but putting his name on the economy is so great because of me, when everybody feels like the economy isn't great, is not a good campaign strategy.
You could thank me for the economy. It's like, oh, slow down.
I could prove all the numbers. You could show me all the numbers you want, but I don't feel that way.
Right.
And I think, and that's a problem for any political figure, but for Biden specifically, is like because for Biden and his team, they're looking at it and going like, look at all these great numbers. The economy's doing great. All the numbers are great. Unemployment's historically low. Wages are outpacing inflation for the first time in blah, 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 and all these different cool things that are great economic indicators. Let's run on economy. I don't know we've talked about it a couple times on the show. I don't know. I can't articulate what it is, but I don't feel comfortable in this economy. I don't feel like we're in a good position in this economy where we stand. And I think that is a big hurdle for the Biden campaign.
Yeah, but I think it'd also be a false hope that Trump's going to all of a sudden come in and the economy is going to just flip it around.
What did you say earlier? So like when we were talking about, I voted for you because, well, maybe I didn't vote for you because I like you. I just didn't like the other.
Right.
And that
I get that. Yeah.
And I think there's enough people who, at least maybe incorrectly, but there's enough people who go, Trump sucks and he runs his mouth and all the Twitter's stupid and all this, that, and the other. But I had more money when he was the president. I felt better about where I was financially when he was the president.
I mean, I'd be curious to hear explanations to those statements.
I mean, that has been an oft polled sentiment over the last year or so. They felt that. I mean, so far as I think one of the polls that had it, the polling question was, do you feel like Biden or Trump would be better? Do you think that Biden or Trump has a better control of the economy, or could control the economy better, or something like that? And people said Trump. And I don't think, but again, like, I don't think these are the sycophant Trump fans that are getting these polling questions. Some are,
right?
But I think not in the numbers that the polling is showing.
Oh, I remember like tariffs that we got into a big like tariff war with like a bunch of countries.
Yeah.
What does that raise the cost of?
Stuff.
Goods that we buy.
Sure. But if you're in the production side of things, it's good for you. If you're producing something here,
and you source
and you're not importing or you're not exporting it, if you're not importing a great percentage of your product, and you're not exporting it, if you're making and selling something here in the United States, tariffs are good for you.
Yes. If you can source all your raw goods and produce everything in the country, yes, but most manufacturing or anything closely related to that is not done that way whatsoever.
I mean, I don't intend to argue the particulars of how the economy was doing under Trump versus under Biden. I'm just saying as a function of politics only,
perception,
the Biden team has a real problem with this perception of the economy. I don't know how you fix it, but I'm still, like I said, I am one of the ones who questions it. Now, don't get me wrong, because I question it, I'm still not voting for Trump. Not voting for Biden either. Right. Not sure who I'm voting for yet.
I can't remember what the stat was. It was how many people are I guess are looking to I guess missing their late payments on credit card. It was all just stories about like credit card debt.
Right. Well, because that's one of the things that the Biden campaign, one of those positive figures that the Biden campaign keeps leaning on. It's like, consumer spending is still up, or it's going up.
Right.
It's like, yeah, but it's coming at what?
Yeah, retailers are still making money.
Right, and that's great. That is a good economic factor. But when spending is up and short-term debt is up, it relatively, it means people are spending money they don't have.
Yeah.
And at some point, that's coming due. And that's going to be it's going there is a bubble to pop in that conversation. When and how it pops, that's a whole other conversation. But I think, and maybe that's part of what it is. It's like, yeah, I'm still buying stuff and I'm still living my life or whatever, but I'm taking on debt to do it. And so, yeah,
I did say I don't know where
the economy looks better, but I am fucked.
I don't know where it's at in the House, but I think they were trying to pass a bill to take medical debt off of your credit report.
I did hear that. Yep.
Which that's, I think from what I've heard, that's what those people's like issue as far as, going into severe debt or, or worse.
I mean, that's
usually due to medical debts.
Medical debt's usually the breaker.
Yeah.
But it's usually as a result of, it's usually not a standalone.
All right. They were already kind of living paycheck to paycheck,
right.
And then just
money's tight and you take one big medical hit.
Right.
And you're fucked.
Or you're out of work for 2 weeks and right. You got medical bills.
Right. Which I don't, that's a hard, that's a multifaceted conversation, because then we get into the medical side. Why is it so expensive, and why is this, and why is that, and how would be a better way for this to work, and the financing system, and bankruptability of certain items and not other items, and. I mean, I think like credit reporting agencies are their own problems. I mean, they're private companies. Like there's what is it? What is the name of the group? It's a YouTube show. It's just a comedy troupe basically, and they do like this sketch stuff and whatever. And there's this one sketch. It's like the millennial kid. He checks into a camp for like whatever, and it's like you can leave this place when you solve this riddle, and the riddle is you must have experience to get the job, but you can't get experience without getting the job. And it's like a bunch of these little riddles. It's like, you need the nice suit to take to the interview, but you can't afford the suit to go to the interview if you don't have the job.
Right.
And it's like all these different like kind of things like that, and like it goes back and forth. And he's the millennial kid's like, I figured it out. Okay, I'm fucked. There is no solution, And it's like I going back a little bit when the neighborhood group conversation I had. One of the people that came, who was I was very glad to have there, was the vice president of the neighborhood group, the residential neighborhood group that is around us. And he was talking about how like some of the old leadership really didn't like renters, and they didn't like renters because the general adage is, well, a renter is they're not invested in the neighborhood. They're not in it for the long haul. They're just renting.
Right.
And he's like, I'm a millennial. I'm going to be renting my whole fucking life. I can rent this place for my whole life, or I can rent that place for my whole life. It doesn't matter. And you know what else? If you own the house, you can sell it and fucking leave. You're no more connected, or you have no more long-term investment in the neighborhood than a renter does. And that was kind of his take, which I was like, yeah, that's a pretty good take. I like that. Because I get the sentiment, but I think it's probably incorrect. I think there are some that are renters transitionally, but I think in the way the world seems to be shaking down, there's a lot of people are going to be renters for their entire life.
Possible. But I think there's even the time that I've rented, a lot of people keep up like the things that are around them.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. They care about that they go make friends with their neighbors, whether their neighbors are renters too, or
right.
They actually own the home next door.
Yeah, I mean, they put different seasonal wreaths up on the door and a nice doormat down.
I would say that's
a little garden out on their scape.
That just sucks generally. Like the idea, and I don't know what this kid did for a living. Be curious. I should have asked him. But like the idea that you're working and you're 25, 27 years old, something like that, and you've already accepted the fact that you will never own a home.
Yeah.
Not because you don't want to. That's a whole separate conversation. There are people that prefer that. Like my father-in-law he likes to lease cars because he gets tired of them and wants a new one every couple of years, and so he leases them because functionally for him that makes more sense.
Yeah, if you're not putting too many miles on it.
Yeah, he doesn't. He doesn't drive a ton. He doesn't use that. He doesn't use it. He uses my mother-in-law's car when they do like vacations or trips or something like that, where they put a lot of miles on for a short period of time.
Right.
They buy one and they lease one but his is always the lease because, like, he had a Jaguar, then he had a fucking Silverado, and then he had a Jeep, and then he had a this. Like, he just keeps flopping between. He just doesn't. Like, he likes cars and he likes driving, but he doesn't have like a type. It's not like he went from like a luxury Jaguar to a luxury Lexus.
Right.
He went from a luxury Jaguar to a Chevy, and then he went from the Chevy to something else. And like that's how he does cars. And if that's what you want to do, and that's how it works for you, whether it's your car or your housing, that's cool. But when that's not what you want, but you're stuck, that sucks.
Yeah.
And you realize that at a young age that you're going to rent for your whole life, that really sucks. That really sucks. Like that actually kind of makes me sad the more I think about it. If you want, like, again, if it's not a want, like like right now you could be making like 150, 200 grand a year, and you're gonna have a hard time getting a house that you can make a payment on.
Sure.
That's worth getting.
Yeah.
And maybe that's part of what sucks about it. What else happened locally recently? Reading scores, talked about that. Couple of developments in South Knox are going up. I don't really care about development news. We made jokes about the Sono. That's about it in my specific list of things that I know that happened this week that were local worth talking about.
Yeah, I just saw one national thing where he held the attorney general in contempt.
Oh yeah,
he was voted to be held in contempt by the House.
Well, was he called to testify for something and refused to come, or just sat there and didn't say what they wanted him to say?
No, this is he refused to give the audio recordings of the special counsel investigation with Biden.
Interesting.
So I'm in agreement with the detractors that say, special counsel sat down, I think, for like 5-hour interview. Transcript of the interview was given. Apparently the sticking point for the GOP is they want the audio recordings of the interview. So because the audio recording wasn't turned over, which I think Biden's already, like a month or so ago, declared executive privilege over it. I guess just to try and kind of null and void that. I'm like, all right, now you really don't have to give it to him. He's like, that's executive privilege.
Interesting.
But I love some of the Democratic colleagues. They keep like pointing out, like one of them has like a running clock and it's at like 700 and something days. They're like, this is Jim Jordan's, defiance of subpoena.
No.
So we're now at 794 days or whatever.
I was trying to go to...
He's like, but we're going to hold someone in contempt that gave us the report, gave the special counsel, or, when he said, made them available to sit down for 5 hours, then gave them the transcript. But we're going to hold them in contempt. Which I think the Justice Department came out today that said they weren't bringing charges against the Attorney General.
Yeah. I don't.
Seems like political theater to me. I think I agree with some that say that they're just trying to kind of win points, basically.
Yeah, it's just a fucking. It's not even chess. It's like a weird game of checkers.
They're like, oh well, they kind of keep poking fun at the GOP, and they're like, where's your impeachment inquiry at? Like, I thought you were going to bring the worst high crime and misdemeanor that this nation has ever seen. Like, are we doing it? Like, I think it was. I don't know if you see him, Jared Moskowitz. I think he's from Florida. A real slick speaker, kind of funny. But he was bringing up one actually on the Biden thing. I think at one point in like one of the judiciary or one of the oversight meetings, like he offered to like put on a mask and like read the transcript as Biden. He's like, "What do you guys want? You want a recording of somebody like reading the transcript? Like, what is this?" He's like, "All right, cool, I'll do it."
Well, I mean, they just they want the recording because Biden sounds bad in the recording.
That's definitely some people's views. That's some of their concern.
Well, that was what the dude leaked
up
about how like Biden was like couldn't remember which son died and couldn't remember dates of this, that, and the other, or even approximate times.
All right,
certain things that happened, like confused when he was vice president with when he was still in the Senate,
right?
On timing of things, which I mean, there's that'd be in the transcript.
I do that shit all.
That's
the time.
In the transcript too, for that matter. But I don't. I disagree. I also make timing mistakes, but not consistently and all the time. But I don't know. Like I don't know. I don't want to start that argument, so I'm just going to leave it alone.
Yeah.
I'm going to Marsha's Facebook page. I'm trying to find something fun to talk about for Marsha. Apparently, she went and hung out with Trump for a while, and so it's like 1,000 pictures. One picture of her with Trump, and then her with a picture of Trump's stage, or not stage, what's that thing called? Podium.
That's right. He came to the Capitol Hill. Yeah. I try to think. I'm like, did this shit happen before? Like after Obama left office, like did he come back and like meet up with all his Democratic buddies? I'm like, I don't think he did that.
Well, he wasn't. Was he campaigning or not? No. He's campaigning right now, so he's certainly on the circuit to meet and greet and shake hands, and anybody who will.
No, but
anybody
also,
as willing as Marsha Blackburn is to say whatever she has to say to make him happy is worth a visit for his campaign's sake.
I mean, I definitely have disdain for Trump, but I really just don't understand how he's inserted himself into even just like recent politics. Like, I think he was the one that told the GOP to tank Biden's border bill or whatever. Well, yeah, not that long ago.
Right, but I don't think that's abnormal. I don't think it's abnormal.
Former presidents like weigh in and basically kind of like nudge the party in a certain direction.
It's abnormal in the sense that you have a former president who is running for president, because we haven't had one of those in our lifetime. We haven't had somebody serve a term, lose, and then run in the subsequent following one.
Right.
And so it is abnormal in that sense, but I don't think it's abnormal in the sense that I'm trying to think here. That the clear, like I'm trying to think of when the last time we had a clear nominee front runner, because we certainly didn't when Biden took the Democratic nominee. But sure, I mean, it makes sense functionally why he has sway right now in current politics as it's happening whilst he's campaigning. Because what the play is like,
he's been doing it for the past 3-4 years,
right?
And you could argue that he was campaigning the whole time,
right? He was campaigning the second that he lost. I mean, Jan 6 was him campaigning for now.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess
no, that wasn't campaigning. He was still president at that point,
and he was still and it was going to be fixed. They were going to fix it. The truth would come out, and he would be reinstalled.
Yeah, I heard that. It was supposed to happen like 3 Augusts ago.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things to me is like the missus has made mention of like not Hitler in the sense of he has a genocidal rampage to him, but in the sycophant fantasy that is Trump for a certain set of people, that we could get to that level of like, and I mean we are getting there. And to be fair, like we're getting there. We're getting to this place where, and I think it goes. I think the backswing of the pendulum is the same thing. In that we're so desperate. We're not so desperate. How do I word this? That the left and the right as political entities are so desperate to keep the other one out that we're willing to let things happen that we really don't like. We really shouldn't let happen. We're willing to, and again, I think this goes both ways. Like, it's like when Trump did it, it was okay, but when Biden does it, it's bad. Like we've had a bunch of different versions of that in both ways. I can't think of this particular off the top of my head before you ask, but like Democrats will excuse their guy for doing this thing and then lambaste a Republican for it. You just mentioned the Jim Jordan subpoena thing versus the current. You know what I'm saying? Like there's been versions of this on both sides. And I hate saying that phrase, on both sides.
Right.
But there's been versions of that where there's so much desperation that the other doesn't win that we're willing to look past some of the things that our team is doing, and that we're so entrenched in this team thing that I don't think that the missus is super off base and like how scary this is getting. And I don't know what to do about it, and I don't know how to move forward.
It's definitely kind of upped on both sides. Because like you said, like both sides are like, well, you guys did it, so now we get to do it. And then it just kind of snowballs from there. It's like, well, then you guys did that, well, now we got to do it too.
Right.
And like, well, you guys did it all over again, so we got to do it all over again.
Right, and I don't know how this plays out long term. Like, and realistically, and again, it's like I don't know that I believe that Trump is so. Like, I think he is egotistical enough to think that he should be president for life if he wins again. Like, I think that he has the ego for that. I don't know that I believe he would act upon that. I don't see any evidence of him truly like I see the evidence in the sense that he thinks he won 2020 but didn't, and I see how he was willing to lean into, and maybe he truly believes the conspiracy that he actually did win, blah 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 blah. But I don't know that I see him thinking that if he got his second term through the process, as fucked up as the bullshit as the process is, according to him and all that kind of stuff, I don't know that I see him trying to go past 2 terms. I don't know that he has that kind of...
I don't know if he's ever talked about it. I mean, during his first term, he did try a couple times to extend the presidential powers.
Well, but they all do that.
No. Who else has tried to do it?
Extend, meaning for longer periods of time, or extend as in putting more power in the executive branch than there was?
Putting more power in the executive branch.
We've been doing that for a long time. I think that goes to my argument of what I believe the president is supposed to do versus what they do. I think we put like the executive order thing. We've had all these executive orders. Like, executive orders have become normal. They used to be very rare and few and far between because it had to be extenuating circumstances of high import to bother with an executive order.
Yeah.
And now it's like, what's the last president you can think of that didn't do one? There were presidents for, there were multiple presidents in a row that never did an executive order for years and years and years. And now I'd say Biden's already had a handful. Trump had a bunch. Obama did a bunch. Bush did a bunch.
Yeah.
It's become a norm. That's a presidential power that didn't exist before. That's been expanded upon and expanded upon.
I think it was a presidential power, and then
maybe it
got used more.
Right. Maybe it wasn't used because
it was getting used more often.
Right, but it wasn't used because the norm was that it has to be serious to get used.
Maybe it's because we had more functioning Congresses in previous years.
Perhaps. But, I don't, like the chicken or the egg, I guess, in that part of the conversation. But, I think that there's, the expansion, again, like all of your alphabet agencies, Bush added a new one. Homeland Security is a new agency that didn't exist before.
Right.
That is a new presidential power that didn't exist before. Now, Congress gave it to him, but it's still a new presidential power.
Yes.
And so, like that again, I don't think that's necessarily a new thing. Trump certainly did his part of it too. Yes, I'm not disagreeing with that part. But did he ever say that he should be president until he dies? Did he ever imply that he should be president forever?
I want to say maybe, but I can't say for certain. I want to say he may have like joked about it once.
I can imagine him saying the phrase, "I would be a very good president all the way until the day of my death." But I don't know. Maybe this is some weird fantasy I have in my head. But I feel like he would. I feel like he would respect the 2-term part. I feel like he would. Like unless there was, I could see him folding to the ego of so many people want more, and maybe making that play. Well, people want more, so I got to give them more.
All right. This is what the people want.
But I don't know. Like I think, for legacy's sake and stuff like that, which I think is all he really cares about, staying out of jail and legacy, is, the legacy of being the first president to break whatever was the 23rd Amendment or whatever it is, that was the one that actually put into writing the 2-term president rule.
What, FDR?
It was 20-something. I don't remember what, but it's an amendment to the Constitution.
Right. I'm asking, are you talking about FDR?
FDR was the last one to exceed to 2 terms. Yes.
It's the only.
Okay. Well, whatever. But post FDR, so to be the only one other than FDR to have more than 2 terms, despite the fact that there's an amendment that says he can't. I don't think, and I don't even think yes, again, there are millions, literal millions of Trump sycophants that would do anything and everything and whatever. Don't get me wrong, but not enough in the grand scheme of things to break the Constitution that hard.
I wouldn't think so.
I don't even think even a Marsha Blackburn, who is a huge Trump or die, her political career depends on Trump and she knows it, and she acts like it does. I don't even think she would go so far as to be like, okay, no, Trump cannot run again if he wins and runs, I can't imagine she would do that.
I mean,
even as crazy
like
as
you're pointing out, he has enough of a following that there are a plethora of politicians,
but I think
that find it necessary to remain in the good graces of, just so they have his base.
And I think he would continue to hold sway post, but I don't think he would I don't think he would make a play for a 3rd term, I guess is the point I'm getting to. Would he hold sway post? Sure. Obama still holds sway. Clinton still fucking holds sway.
How?
Not in a super direct sense, but I mean, what is the fundraiser? There's a fundraiser not that long ago. Obama and Clinton and a whole bunch of fucking people show up. Why do you bring Bill fucking Clinton to a fundraiser as a speaker? Because he still holds sway. Clinton goes and talks to people and tells people certain things. They do certain things. You don't think he still holds some modicum of influence in the Democratic Party?
No.
I think you're wrong on that one. You think Obama doesn't?
Say Hillary maybe, but Bill? No.
Okay, do you think Obama doesn't? Do you think Obama doesn't have play? Like if Obama went to a whole bunch of different people and told them that this is what we need to do? You think Obama's decision to?
I think he has the ability, but I don't think he throws that stick around.
I mean, he did back in 2020. He stayed out of the presidential primary for the Democrats until Biden took the seat, and then he went out and publicly supported Biden.
Okay.
I mean, you would think as his VP when he was president that maybe he would have been supporting Biden right off the bat. But he stayed out of it and chose to stay out of it for whatever reason he did. But when he went in and said, hey, I'm Barack Obama, you should vote for my buddy Joe.
Maybe he didn't want to be seen as influencing the primaries.
Okay, but either way, you don't think that Obama saying vote for my buddy Joe was him swinging his influence when he did it, or do you think he's just so he was just waiting for the opportune time to then say it? No, I think he was. I don't think he liked. I personally, and some of the stories I don't think he particularly liked Joe Biden to be the presidential nominee for the Democratic Party. But as a proper and good Democratic operative that Obama is, when their nominee was made, he supported it. And he asked the people who supported him to support the person he tells them to support.
Gotcha.
Anyway, more of the story is I think he has influence in the party. I'm positive that he has influence in the party.
I don't think he's got that much.
I think he does. I think
he could, but I don't think he is wielding that.
I think he has made a strategic decision to try to stay out and to try to stay out of the public eye. He's trying to retire, air quotes. He doesn't want to be a visible ex-president. I agree with that. But
which one is it?
I think if you put him in a room with high dollar donors and he does his thing, they get high dollar donations to the party. Yes.
Yes.
Because they trot him out. That. They trot him out to do those things.
Yes, if you have a fundraiser and you bring him, yes, they were going to raise some funds.
Okay. So he has influence. He has influence over the people that are donating money to them.
People pay money just to hear the man speak.
Okay. I think we're agreeing on in different avenues of the same premise.
Well, you're talking about fundraising where you're raising money for, I'm assuming just for the DNC. I don't know what that fundraiser, what the money would even go towards.
Okay. So if he chose, and I acknowledge that he is probably choosing not to. I agree with you that he's chosen not to. But if he chose to make a stand on a particular issue. Let's say Obama really thinks, I mean, this was under his purview when he was president. Let's say Obama is really opposed to our support of Ukraine in this Ukrainian-Russian thing.
Right.
He truly believes that as a political issue, as a moral issue, whatever it is, that he's opposed to that. That if he went around and started talking publicly about how we need to stop funding Ukraine, because when he was president, he was fighting them left and right because they are super corrupt and they steal all their money and they don't care about their citizens, this side or the other. Whatever reason he has for not trusting Kyiv and Zelensky and all that stuff, is like, we need to stop doing this. This is bankrupting our nation and stuff like that. If he went out publicly and started a campaign opposed to our support of Ukraine, that the party wouldn't follow suit.
No.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay. I disagree with you there. And that's that. Okay. Okay. That's that. I think that's
I don't think there's that many current members of Congress and the Senate.
Okay, so you don't
that would be that beholden to.
You're right. Okay, let's
his views.
Let me rephrase. Let me say the same thing in a little bit different way. You don't think that if he went and made a campaign against us supporting that, saying that any Democrat who supports that is not a Democrat like me, that there wouldn't be at least political push on the people who are supporting Ukraine to change their view for their own political ends on their next election coming up? You don't think that him saying, you're not a Democrat like me if you don't make this decision, won't have political effects in election on Democrats that are on the opposite viewpoint?
That was a really weird question.
It was very weird. If he made it an issue, if he made it a public issue,
I could see it and kind
says,
of fracturing part
vote,
of the party, but I think there would be.
Don't vote in a Democratic primary for a Democratic candidate who supports Kyiv. If he said that phrase in an election cycle,
it would have effect. Yeah.
Okay, so he does have political sway. That would be
Yes.
that would be the weakest version of political sway. Yes, but that would be I think he has way more than that. I think he has enough that he would go sit down with whoever is running and say, hey, if you don't do this, I will affect your campaign to do X. I think he has the capability of doing that. Whether he does or doesn't, that's not for me to say. But at minimum, I like that example. It's true. He could do that. Whether he is or isn't the point. I think he has the ability to have the sway. I agree with you. He's chosen not to. But I think he would have the ability to if he wanted to.
Okay. Sure.
Okay.
I think he has the possibility of wielding that power. Okay.
I was just to say that, like, I see what you mean by it's weird that Trump's doing it, but it's only weird that Trump's doing it because he is running for president after being president, which is weird in and of itself in our lifetime. I don't know that it's ever happened before. The other Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt, did it. That'd be the only one I can think of. Bull Moose Party.
Was he out and came back?
Yeah, because he put Taft in. Like he handpicked Taft to replace him because he came in when Garfield died. Is that right?
Don't remember.
He came in as VP and served like 2 years as president, and then ran for re-election. And in his re-election run, said, "I will count this as my second term." Back then, it wasn't law of the land yet, but the norm was 2 terms, thanks to George. But he said, "I will count this as my second term." And when the end of that term came up, he handpicked, I think it was Taft.
You say thanks to George.
George Washington served 2 terms. That's where the norm came from.
Oh, the norm. Okay. I thought you meant, I was like, well, no, the amendment wasn't done then.
Right, because the amendment wasn't in place yet, but the norm was 2 terms. He said, "I will count this as my second term." So he did run for re-election. I believe it was Taft he handpicked to replace him. Taft wins. He really doesn't like how Taft is doing it. He starts the Bull Moose Party, runs for president under the Bull Moose Party, and loses. But that's the only other time I can think of in presidential history that we've had a president who was president who sat out a term and then ran again.
Gotcha.
So Trump is anomalous in that fact. My not great version of history, that's the only one I can think of. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No. I guess I just don't like the idea of someone that shouldn't be involved in politics involving themselves a lot in current politics.
I mean, I would think that it's not super abnormal once you're the nominee. In fact, that you have some influence inside the party as it currently sits.
I mean, I would think if he has something to say, I think Congress, has people come in and can speak on the floor on certain topics. Maybe it's more just in committees. I don't know if I've seen kind of a lay person speak on the House of Congress.
But I mean, I would still think that I would still think as a party, you are looking at your presidential nominee once that is a known entity, once you know who it is. I think you're looking at that. You're looking at that, yeah, because I think you would be looking to him. I think when Hillary got the nomination in 2016, that the party at large was looking for her for that she had the ability, whether she did or didn't use it, but she had the ability to influence things that were going on at the time before she was elected president. I would think that's fairly normal inside the party politics of the things. That you say, okay, hey, Hillary's our nominee. We're going to rally around her because we want her to be our president because we don't want that Trump fucker to be president, right? Right. So what she wants,
yeah, but I don't
now, even though she's not president yet, is a value to us as an entity at large.
I mean, I would say I wasn't paying as much attention then, but I can't think of any time when Hillary was running up to the election that she was talking to her Democratic colleagues.
I agree with you. I don't recall.
Hey, we need to vote for this. We need to pass this.
A story where,
we need to repeal that.
Right. I certainly don't. She's a better political player than Trump is anyway. But I don't recall a story of Hillary told Democrats to vote for this so that it would make Republicans look bad, so that it would help her election. I don't recall that story either.
Or just anything remotely close to it. Not exactly that inflammatory.
But I mean, that's what Trump did with the border thing, right? Like, it was don't kill this thing so Biden continues to look bad on border stuff so that I can run on Biden sucks at border stuff.
I think that was the optics of it.
It
seemed like there were more people that were for it, and it was a way of doing something.
Right, but that was Trump's.
When that was the thing, you're not doing anything about the border. It's like, hey, we just have this.
But
bill.
Trump's intent was to kill it so that we can continue to say Biden won't do anything about the border. Even though we are the ones that killed it, it doesn't matter. The optics are enough that we can blame it on Biden, and we can run on that.
Possibly. I don't know if that seemed like what the game would.
Yeah, I agree. That's what it felt like the intent was in that whole thing to me, too. Oh, all right. We'll close real news on this one. Trump has promised to not tax tips if he is elected president. He's going to remove tip income from the from your income statement when you are filing taxes. That's a Trump campaign promise. Found. I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know. It's weird.
I hadn't heard anything about that.
Like, I like the idea because obviously tipped people are usually lower income people. Reducing taxes on lower income people is probably not a bad thing. I'd be curious to know how much total IRS income plays into, like, how much actual, like, net income the federal government gets from tax tips. What does that mean on your income statement as a individual for your credit score and stuff like that? That's another question. Like, yeah, I'm taxed on $10,000 a year, but I make 60. So do I get a loan on 60? Or since it's only taxable income, like, how do they treat that? How's our banks going to treat that for loans and stuff like that? I would think they would be pretty open to counting your income, not what's taxed or not taxed. They don't really care. Anything, it makes your income greater than it looks because you're not losing a bunch of taxes.
True.
So, anyway.
Good ones.
What was the last one? What was the last one we did last week? I feel like I had more to say on that. I forgot about it. Anyway, this week, is the bird on the tennis court? Was that the last one? Any update on the bird?
I don't think so.
I want to know if the bird's okay.
Oh, we got a real nutcase. Cold Steel Creamery.
Squirrels? Is it squirrels?
No.
It's squirrel related?
No.
Okay. Real nutcase. Here we go. Puns. Yep. Puns galore. Here we go.
Cold Steel Creamery faces suit over lack of real pistachios in pistachio ice cream.
Okay. So somebody sued because they put pistachio flavoring that isn't actual pistachios in?
Yeah. Federal judge in New York has given go-ahead to a Long Island woman's class action lawsuit that claims consumers are being duped by Cold Steel Creamery when they purchase certain flavors that, quote-unquote, do not contain their represented ingredients.
What the fuck? I don't want to be like...
She reasonably believed that the pistachio ice cream she purchased from defendant contained pistachio.
What is wrong? Okay. I don't even know where to start. Like, I don't want to be... I don't like this one. Don't do this one. Like, these are supposed to be fun and silly. Because I don't want to be a downer on all these. Like, I'm always a downer on these. I don't want to be a downer on this.
What, truth in advertising?
Like, what are we talking about, though? Like, your ice cream contains real pistachios versus it tastes like pistachios? What's the truth in advertising? Did they say pistachio... Did they say ice cream with pistachios, or did they say pistachio-flavored ice cream?
I don't know how it's marketed.
I'm just saying, like, it's just... It gets so stupid. It's like, oh, I got burnt by hot coffee. Well, it's coffee. It's supposed to be hot. Like, what is wrong with us? We're wrong. This is how you get a Trump. This shit. That we use our legal system for this shit. This is how you end up with Trump. I told you I don't want to be negative about it. Let's do a different one.
I just don't see how you went there with it. This is how we get people like Trump.
Yeah, because we're dumb. That's the point. Okay. We're dumb, and this is how we get it to Trump, because we're dumb, and we're going to sue an ice cream manufacturer, or an ice cream parlor even. It's not even a manufacturer. They put flavored ice cream in a bowl in front of you, and they say, this is pistachio flavored. It doesn't have pistachios.
I'm not saying it's a valid fucking... It's just a weird story. Fucking back off.
That's what I was...
Christ.
That's what I said from the get-go. I don't want to be a downer about it all the time, but I'm always a downer.
All right, how about an interesting one? African elephants call each other by unique names, new study shows.
That's neat.
Yeah. Are you okay? Did you catch your breath?
Are they racist?
Wow.
I bet they are. But anyway, go ahead.
African elephants call each other names, respond to individual names, something that few wild animals do, according to new research published Monday.
Wild animals, okay. I was about to say my dog responds to his name, but he's not wild.
Scientists believe that animals with complex social structures and family groups that separate and then reunite often may be more likely to use individual names. If you're looking after a large family, you've got to be able to say, hey, Virginia, get over there. Let's see. It's extremely rare for wild animals to call each other by unique names. Humans have names, of course, and our dogs come with their names called. Baby dolphins invent their own names called signature whistles, and parrots may also use names.
Yeah, so domesticated animals, it's not uncommon that they get it, but for wild animals, it's unique. We think. I mean, obviously, like, we don't know.
All right.
Tigers might be out there growling at each other, right? That's cool.
Rawr.
I ain't mad at it. I don't know, like, maybe that's just it. I don't know how to comment and have a discussion about a thing that's I'm not going to be a downer about. Like, if I'm going to have a comment, I'm going to be a downer comment. Who fucking cares?
Got shit on it.
Who fucking cares? They're elephants. They're delicious. We should shoot and eat them.
So there was a 98-year-old man who donated his liver. He's believed to be the oldest American organ donor ever.
Sweet.
Yeah. Did you hear Joey Chestnut got banned from the...
Because he refused to eat the hot dogs that were the contest hot dogs.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, he's gone, like, he got sponsored by, what was it?
Beyond or whatever, like some kind of
Beyond
plant-based.
Meats or Unbelievable. What's the other one?
No, I don't know.
It's beyond. It's either beyond or unbelievable, I think is what it is, or whatever. One of the fake.
I don't think that was a part of his contract that he no longer could eat anything that wasn't their product.
Right, but he would say he wouldn't. He has a sponsorship from Beyond Meats or whatever it is, and to support his sponsor, he doesn't eat real meat anymore, and refuse. Apparently, impossible. That's the other one. Beyond and Impossible. It's Impossible. I think it's Impossible is his sponsor. Anyway, doesn't matter. They make it. There is an Impossible hot dog, and he said, "I'll only do it if if it's Impossible hot dogs." And they said, "No, you eat Nathan's pork part hot dog as usual, or you don't compete." And so he didn't compete. That's my understanding of the story. What do you got?
This was a story about how him and another famous Kobayashi, who's another like top tier competitive eater. I guess they're about to have a Netflix special.
Yay!
Called Beyond the Beef.
I mean, as far as I understood the story, there's nothing really controversial about it. He refuses to eat what the food is that the contest is to eat. And whether he refuses on some moral grounds or he refuses on the sponsorship grounds, that's neither here nor there. But like, it's a hot dog eating contest. It's not a It's not a soy grass eating contest.
Right.
If you want to do a soy grass eating contest, go do it. That's fine. I don't see the controversy in it. It'd be like Lawrence Taylor being like, I don't want to hit people anymore, but I want to play football.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you're a linebacker, buddy. What are you going to do? Well, I don't know. I'm going to play the game, but I'm not going to hit anybody.
I hadn't heard that he was opposed to eating the actual Nathan's hot dogs. I thought I'd read that the company he has a sponsorship with didn't care. Like, he didn't have any kind of exclusivity with it.
Right. My understanding was that was his take on it. Whether it was part of the agreement with his sponsor or not wasn't the point.
Yeah.
It was that in solidarity with my sponsor, I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
Not that my sponsor tells me I can't.
I would think anybody that's a competitive eater, you can't be like, oh well, want to eat burgers, but want to have gluten-free buns or whatever. You're changing the item that everyone is eating the same of.
Oh, there's an interesting thing we could expand on there, but I think it's time for call it a show.
Okay.
But yeah, I agree. I mean, like, this is the contest, participate or not.
Right.
It's that simple.
He was here a couple weeks ago.
I heard that.
Yeah.
We had one. What do we have here?
It was like fried bologna contest or something.
Way to go, Knoxville. Fried bologna. Good job. Come to Knoxville, get your wigs out of the Sunsphere, eat fried bologna, whatever generic, ridiculous thing that we have attached to us as Knoxvillians, I'll take it. I do believe that if anybody sells wigs out there and wants to open a wig shop in the Sunsphere, I'll support that. I will help fund your thing. I want to make a wig shop in the Sunsphere, and we'll call it something along the lines of Springfield Wigs. I'm not sure. Still working on the title, but something like that. We'll do wigs out of the Sunsphere because that's the way we should. Almost Agreement at gmail.com. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Go to the website, almostagreement.com. Check hollerboo.com. The greatest and most coolest soapbox derby in Knoxville is happening, and you should be a part of it. Go check that out, and we will... we got a show next week. I think we're going to take a week off after that. Maybe we'll double up at some point to get you guys your proper dose of us. Almost Agreement, everybody. Thanks for listening. We will be back to talk more things.